As entrepreneurs, we all want to be extremely effective in everything we do. But on occasion, life intrudes. Oftentimes, as we all know, that intrusion, it hits us hard, but we can bounce back. And our next entrepreneur, Ari Meisel, is here to share his story. In 2006, he was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And this is an incurable disease of the digestive tract, and it was pretty severe. And it required over a dozen daily medications, several hospital visits. And after reaching, I mean, think of that, after reaching that personal low point in the hospital, Ari decided he was going to do everything in his power to rise above this. And boy, did he. A combination of yoga, nutrition, natural supplements, and a lot of exercise. He fought back. And it was through this, though, that Ari was able to be totally, free of all traces of this incurable disease. And it's a big part of everyone here at Accelerating Entrepreneurial Success is we've got to have our energy so that we can have this great life. Well, he didn't stop there. He went ahead and competed in Ironman France in June of 2011. And since then, he's been all over the world. He's been at my mastermind groups. He's been at TED Talks. And he has taken all this energy and harnessed it in to how to be even more effective in everything you do. Because he had to. And we have to. Stay tuned. You're going to be happy you did.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
Ari Meisel, thank you for joining us here. I am extremely excited to have you here.
John, it's always nice talking to you. Thank you.
Well, and I just want to give a little more background. I had the opportunity to hang out with Ari virtually on Creative Live. I was really intrigued with his story. I started watching the educational videos, the workshop you were putting together, and then immediately had to reach out to you, call, and had you come out to my mastermind group. And this is a group of about 200 financial advisors, some of the top people around the world, and you just blew them away. So I want to share you with the Accelerating Entrepreneur Success audience. And I'll tell you, you have some amazing stories, but give me a little background, because and particularly point out, it looks like you're in not quite a finished building. So let's get the elephant in the room. What's going on behind you here?
No, this is the Less Doing Lab, actually. This is my home gym and office. I'm very, very rarely sitting at a desk. I do most of my work either standing or on my phone, honestly. I'm rarely at the computer and very, very rarely at the desk. So one of the reasons that I would be sitting at a desk is to be podcasting with someone such as yourself. So this happens to be the quietest room in the house.
No, that's great. And it looks very efficient. It looks very efficient too, Ari.
Yes, absolutely. But this also happens to be, I do a lot of demonstrations of exercises and equipment. I have all my biohacking gear here. So when I'm doing videos, it kind of helps to have it all in one place. And I think it fits the motif.
Well, let me just set the stage even more, Ari. One of the things I was blown away with is, as entrepreneurs, what we struggle with, and this is, we want to be more effective. We want to be more effective from a business standpoint, but we also, I always like the term corporate athletes, that we have to be in great shape to be fully engaged to deliver not only for our businesses, but for our family. And you're one of the few people that I know that does a great job of blending it together. You kind of hacked all the systems to do this. And so what got you, I shared the disease and so on, and you had that purpose, but you've taken it to so far. What's going on here?
Well, as far as the health stuff?
Where you've taken it now, you're sharing and really teaching others to do what you did.
Well, so basically, after overcoming Crohn's disease, which I was diagnosed with in 2006, through the process, I realized that the health and the fitness and supplements and the nutritional aspects were actually the easy part in a lot of ways. The hard part was overcoming the stress. And my response to the stress aspect was to create this system of productivity, which I would end up calling less doing, as in less doing, more living. And all I care about, or all I did care about in the beginning, was helping people free up as much time as possible with the goal of helping them to reclaim their minds and do the things that they want to do. So I set out with this framework to optimize, automate, and outsource everything in life, including your health, in order to be more effective. But really, I'm just trying to mitigate people's stress.
Well, let's go, say it slower, the 3 steps, because these are very important for everybody to get. Because this is, so often we dive into all these things and we start playing with them, but we don't think them through. What are the steps?
So a lot of people can outsource stuff, and a lot of people have, but the problem with outsourcing as a first step is that it does not make the process more efficient. It's a different form of procrastination. So really you have to start with optimizing, and optimizing is where you're actually identifying the process that you're going through that is inefficient so that you can try to make it inherently more efficient before you do anything else. The second step, which is honestly where I live in a way, that's the automation aspect, is where I really love to dig in and just come up with new stuff, because there's so many things now that you can do in the vein of set it and forget it. And that's where the automation is. Once you've optimized it, then you can look at automation. And automation could be people sometimes, but more often it's systems or processes or web apps or other services that will just run for you, that you don't have to think about. Then if there's anything left over, and a lot of times there isn't, but if there is anything left over, that's when you look at outsourcing it to specialists or generalists.
Okay, let's take each of these individually, because this was, I think of myself as pretty system driven. I've built a lot of systems along the way in different businesses and so on, and a lot of money involved for portfolio management and that. And I wasn't the guy doing it, but I would be the CEO of the firms. And I understand this optimization, because you're spending money programming or putting any system in process together. And I always like this kind of nail it and scale it concept, where a business is you get the process done, you get it working, and then scale it up really quickly, because we've got all great technology. A big part of that nailing it is this optimization. I mean, give me an example, our listeners, our viewers, an example of something in their life that they could optimize, and what they should do before, a lot of us like to delegate things, and we kind of give up and give it to someone else, and it becomes a disaster. We haven't thought it through, and this optimization really prevents that from happening.
Well, so the truth is that this can be applied to anything in your life, from paying bills to hiring people to how you make dinner for your family. I mean, honestly, the issue is that we have these brains that use a lot of energy in our bodies, but at the same time, they're very lazy in terms of how they actually use that energy, and they want to conserve as much energy as possible. So we actually have these 2 systems. Daniel Kahneman wrote a book about this called Thinking Fast and Slow. Or slowly. We have the system 1 and the system 2. And the system 1 is that automatic system that's full of heuristics, which are the shortcuts that we use to get through the day. And it's, for example, paying a bill is a really good one. That usually sort of hits home with a lot of people. So first of all, it's not that easy to outsource that if you don't go through this process. Because if I had a bill right now and I just forwarded you an email, John, and I said, pay this bill, you wouldn't be able to do that, I would hope, because you don't know what my process is. You don't know where my bank accounts are. You don't know how I pay, when I pay, who I pay, all that stuff. You don't know any of that thing. So the problem with a process like that is that, yes, it might take me 5, 4, maybe 3 minutes to do it. But that 3 minutes is, I actually really like this statistic that I found, that for every 1 minute of stoppage on the highway because of a traffic accident or something, it takes 40 minutes for that traffic flow to return to normal. So we are very similar to the way our minds work. What I want people to be doing is that high-level work that they're meant to be doing. And if you take that 3 minutes, that 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to stop and do something that is administrative or just out of the realm of the thing you're really supposed to be focusing on, it takes you at least 20 minutes to get back into the flow of what you're doing. So there's a huge opportunity cost. That's why I love when people say, "Oh, but it just takes me a minute to do it. I'll do it. It'll take longer to explain it." And that's the point, is that when you look at the paying a bill process and you really stop and think, okay, what are the steps I'm going to go through to actually do this? Average number, actually, just take a guess. What do you think the average number is of steps to pay a bill?
Oh, geez. Getting a bill at home, probably 10, something like that.
27.
Yeah. And that doesn't surprise me at all, Ari. I mean, this is, you know, if you're still paying bills at home, the normal way, and licking a stamp and everything else, I mean, it's huge. I mean, putting a flow chart together of that, and that's really, for entrepreneurs, you're going, oh, well, I'm paying a bill. That's not a big deal. Well, we're talking about everything in our life. That's where it really, like Ari, I think of you. I'm going to give you an example. This will be a personal one. Then I want to cover some of the business stuff. But every once in a while, as I'm brushing my teeth, I think of you. And why? Well, Ari, he is going, you got to optimize everything. And I'm going, okay, what do I have? And well, on occasion, and usually it's my wife doing this, but we run out, get supplies. And so Ari was, coaching me and saying, go ahead, every one of the supplies, guess what? You can have that automated. You know the time frame you're going to need it, and toothbrush, let's say it's every 60 days or every 30 days. I forgot which it is, but they show up.
I think it's every 3 months for toothbrushes.
Yeah, okay, they show up. I mean, Amazon recommends that. You hit it, and for the rest of my life, I know I will have a new toothbrush at the right time because of Ari, in Amazon. And it's just, we can, and this is the part that I love, Ari, is that we can forget about all these low-level decisions that oftentimes take a lot of energy. And then, all of a sudden now we can focus on those things that are going to really make a difference.
Absolutely. So the 27 steps, I need to enumerate that for people a little bit to explain. So that's, go to the Bank of America website or whatever bank it is, log in with this username and password, go to the pay section, pay, and put in the amount and pay this up. And then with the actual bill, whether it's physical or digital, I have to put it into Evernote. I have to scan it maybe. I have to send it to my accountant. I have to put it into my bookkeeping, whatever it might be. 27 steps is actually pretty normal. And when you look at that process, because you never looked at it before, you never even thought about it, you just did it because you know how to do it. Then you look at that and you say, all right, well, I can see right away, because I've actually written this down now, that it doesn't make sense how you get from 23 to 24, and 22 and 21 are actually redundant, and you can get that down to 22 steps. This is what happened to me, at least, and what I've done with other people. And right away, it's like, okay, great. You've actually optimized the process by 20% now, and you have a checklist that you can follow if you need to make it as efficient as possible, and you don't have to waste brain resources on it. However, now you look at the 22 steps, and then I can say to myself, because this is my comfort zone, is I can say, all right, well, if I save this to Dropbox, then this service called WapWolf will automatically convert it, upload it to Evernote, and then IFTTT, and obviously we're going to talk about these, will take that file and send it to my accountant and input it into a Google Doc spreadsheet, so I have all that stuff. And then you're down to 14 steps, and that's when you can finally look at outsourcing it. And the first time I did that with the paying a bill thing, the virtual assistant wrote back. And this was 5 years ago when I was working with virtual assistants in India. And they said, I'm very sorry, sir, but I don't understand how you got from step 11 to step 12. And it's, that's where you stop and say, oh, right, well, I was just working in my head. And now, finally, it is a 9-step process that is so simple, so straightforward, that anybody can do it without any training, and all I have to do when I get a bill is take a picture of it and throw it away.
Those things I'm getting probably not quite as efficient because you're using some technology I want to have everybody share, but I'm pushing it out there. And I got to tell you, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing anything, and I've got more time to think. And when we're creating value, it's all about thinking about thinking. It's where for entrepreneurs, that's where we get the most value. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you just went over, Ari. And I'm going to go to the end, so I'm going to jump around a little bit. But what I hear from entrepreneurs is they struggle with outsourcing. I mean, many of them, successful, 5 million and above, many of the audience here of revenue, large businesses, they don't outsource as much. And I'm a big believer. I have a virtual business. We're in Silicon Valley, global headquarters in my pool house. Ari, you're working out of your home, I think. You have a home office? Yeah. So, I mean, and, we both have sizable businesses, and, it's amazing what you can accomplish. Now, virtual assistants for a lot of people are, how can I use these people? And, Ari, I'm going to give a simple one because you introduced me to this. It's fancy hands, I just love to death. And the reason I love these guys is it's really inexpensive. It's a great one to just turn on people, and because it doesn't cost hardly anything to request a helping hand. And if I have just a remote request of information, instead of looking on the internet where I would used to Google and all that, I just ask them to do it, and they come up with some great stuff. And it's like, boy, and I think it's $2 or $3, in essence, per request, or $2. I mean, it's really low.
Yeah.
So, so what we're going to go through a whole bunch of stuff, and Ari's going to shoot out a lot of ideas, and I got to tell you, they work. Let me go to your book, Ari, just for a second, or go to your blog, and it is, it's an amazing process here that we have, an opportunity, because what we've got is we've got a opportunity to make a difference. I mean, Ari, your blog is at?
Oh, it's lessdoing.com.
Okay, great. Okay, there's the blog, Less Doing. I've got it up on screen for those people who are watching this on video. If they're on audio podcast, it's lessdoing.com. And what are they going to find here, Ari?
Well, so this is the sort of the main site for everything. This is where I do all my podcasting, my blog articles, and this is where there's information on my speaking engagements and the mastermind coaching group that I run, and my membership site. Tons
of resources. We'll go back to that along the way. But as I was reading some of Ari's stuff, doing research on you, Ari, and there's just so much. And one of the things initially, I got a little overwhelmed. With change. I mean, entrepreneurs, we love change when we're driving it, but when we got somebody like you telling us we should change, and it's a lot of stuff, what I found is I started introducing just one new idea per week that you were sharing with us through the blogs and the book, and I'll tell you, that helped me an awful lot. How do you see, as people are making changes, going ahead in this optimization, automation, and outsourcing their life? I mean, how do you see the most successful entrepreneurs really execute this?
So honestly, one of the number one place that I tell people to start, that I like people to start, is with their email. So, it's amazing to me how you find really, really high-performing individuals who have, 4,000 emails in their inbox, and it's like a place they don't even want to look. And I understand it, but it's almost like a travesty to me, because the email inbox, your email in general, is, and you can quote me on this, is the single greatest productivity tool that exists on the planet. Because if you use it right, of course, because there's no other system, there's no other way that you can carry on 14 conversations with different people in different languages, in different countries and time zones, all at the same time, and keep track of it. Remember everything basically remember every conversation you've had for years, and make sure that things are followed up on, deal with corrections to documents, and collaborate on work. Email is amazing. And if we use it properly, you can be so much more productive, get so much more done, and really be much more successful. And I know that may sound silly because I'm talking about email, but it really is the truth. Email is so powerful if you just own it.
I think this is so critical. I totally agree. I was getting stressed out a little over a year ago, and I was getting 400 emails a day. And they were landing in my email box, and I wasn't cleaning it up every day, would be an understatement. And it was just overboard. And, I love my business, Ari, and I love serving people and making a difference. But when you wake up in the morning, look at that. It was overwhelming. And you got some great ideas that you've done. How do we organize this madness to make it that productive tool that you're talking about? Because it's so phenomenal. Today, I came down, I think I have 8 emails in my inbox right now. Okay, that's a big difference in the record probably was about 8,000. Where it's impossible to do the 8,000. With 8, I can deal with them very effectively, and a lot of the lessons you shared with me.
Right. So, and that's fine. 8 is okay. I think that 10 is basically a reasonable limit. That's sort of where where I'm comfortable with, although that doesn't really happen to me. I don't have, even in the last 40 minutes or so that we've been talking, I have no emails in my inbox. So now that doesn't mean that I haven't had a lot of emails come in. So this is important.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need hundreds and hundreds of folders. That's one of the things. That's one of the big trip-ups for people, because searching an email is so good now and so effective that having multiple folders is really just a waste of your time. You need 3 folders, and this sort of depends on what email system you're using, but it applies all of them. You could really get away with 2. So with Gmail, you have this archive thing. It's not necessarily a folder, but it's basically that the email is in your sort of all mail folder. It's something you don't have to see ever. You could always search for it if you need to, but it's nothing that's like an active folder, basically. So, in Outlook, I think there's an archive, but there's definitely a trash, obviously. And the difference between the archive and the trash is that the archive is not actually deleted. So if you ever did need to find it again, it would be there.
Yeah, Outlook has it, and I do use that very effectively.
Right. Okay. So basically, you need to have 2 folders: your inbox and an optional folder. So this is really key. Okay. So because this is a simile or for really everything in life: the essential versus the optional. So you need to be able to differentiate the 2, and a lot of times you can do this automatically. So basically, your optional folder is the stuff that you'd like to read, you'd like to see, you'd like to know about. It's that newsletter from the friend that forwarded it to you. It's the daily deal site. It's all that stuff that it's not garbage, but it's also not essential. So you can set up filters, basically, and you want to filter as much as possible, honestly, into those optional folders. And then basically, if you have time, at the end of the day or the end of the hour or whenever it is, and you will have the time if you use this method, then you can go into the optional folder and you can look and you can scan the headlines very effectively, because once you know you're in optional mode and that you're not missing anything essential, it's very easy to look down a list of 60 emails and say, okay, Facebook, woot.com, oh, there's, my mom forwarded me this newsletter or something, and you can click on that and go for it. So one of the ways to do this, one of the easiest filters to put in there, is that if an email has the word unsubscribe in it, it should automatically be placed into your optional folder, and it should not ever show up in your inbox, because that is not essential. And I don't care if you work in social media and every email that you get has the word unsubscribe in it. You're not deleting it. Remember that. You're just not going to have it in the inbox making noise for you. The inbox should be a place of zen. Now, the other thing is that there's only 3 ways to deal with an email, and you only do it once. You either delete it because it's no longer relevant or it's trash or it doesn't require a response. You defer it because now is not the right time to deal with it, and you can do that using something like followup.cc, which I can explain further. Or you deal with it right now because now is the time to deal with it. It will only take you a few minutes, and that could include delegating it.
So I want to dive into this because I think this is so important. Having those automatic rules, keeps only the most important ones go into your inbox, and it just keeps the stress level down tremendously. And then you can go to the optional folder and look at those, and that has worked exceptionally well for me. One of the challenges out of emails is you get tasks, some assigned to you and some that you can delegate immediately. Some, that you can defer for a while it's not the right time. And, Ari, you and I have talked about this at length, on these to-do lists. I mean, the emails become, for many people, kind of the to-do, and they just have these all stacked, and it's just disorganized, and that's where the stress comes in. Why don't you talk about how you see, most successful entrepreneurs dealing with this?
So to-do lists are very anti-productive. You want to get rid of your to-do list because it is, I promise you, it is destroying your productivity and ruining your mind. The problem with to-do lists is that most of the things on them can't be dealt with right now, either because they're too big, or it's not the right time, or because you're waiting on someone else to do something first. And also, multitasking does not exist. We actually really cannot multitask. They've proven this really beyond a doubt. You cannot multitask. You have to be able to single task as much as possible. And to do that, you need to bring a task in front of you only at the time that you can actually effectively deal with it, which is important also to explain that every task has a timing associated with it, whether it's a time that has to be started, checked on, or finished. And the time that is best for you to do it is very personal. And it's not as simple as being a morning person or a night person. It can get much, much more specific than that. So basically, you want to use services that will bring it to your attention right at the time that you can actually deal with it. And my favorite thing for that is followup.cc, because it's just so elegantly simple and works from any platform. And basically with followup.cc, you're sending an email to anybody you want, and then in the BCC field, you put a time period at followup.cc. So maybe 3 days at followup.cc or 1 week at followup.cc. And then when that time period comes around, that email will come back to you as a reminder, and it will now include a snooze functionality, which is what enables you to practice and get better at learning that timing. So for example, if I think that Friday at 10 a.m. is going to be the right time to deal with this particular issue, and today, what are we, Tuesday today? So, okay, Friday at 10 a.m. Friday at 10 a.m. comes along, and I'm on a phone call that I wasn't intending to be on, and that email comes in. But now, I'm 3 days wiser. Things have happened this week. I've learned some things. Maybe they're relevant to this task or not. But in that moment, I can now say, all right, I'm going to be off this call in 15 minutes, and then I can actually deal with this issue. Or I can say, you know what, now that I'm here and 3 days have passed and I've learned some things, I don't actually have to deal with this until Tuesday. Or even better, maybe it's no longer relevant at all and I can delete it.
Yeah, and this is so powerful, and I use this, and this has changed my life. In addition, for some of you have, like on Mondays, I have a lot of staff meetings, and I want things to show up right at the time of my staff meeting. And so that they're not in my mind and everything else, and they, the emails show up right at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., whatever the meeting time is, and then I can review that with the team, that action and so on. So this is, again, this is getting control of your life. Ari, let's go to another segment. And I call this one the passion. And, to share with us what you've got so many things. We could go on, we could do this as an 8-hour podcast, which I don't think any of the entrepreneurs want, but it would be no problem. Tell me what you're passionate about and how you're getting this out.
Well, I'm passionate about trying. I have a geeky obsession with making things more efficient. And the fortunate thing is that I would never recommend anybody else do it the way that I do it, because a lot of times I go through painstaking, inefficient processes to find and create those processes so that other people don't have to. So my passion is about helping people save time. That's really what I want to do. I want to make people save time so that they can do better things, because I have this very idealistic belief that everybody has this awesomeness in them that is usually being obscured by something stupid like having to run errands or scheduling meetings.
I didn't use I used a different one. I don't think you used Time Trade, but I had already bought it for an enterprise level, so I use that. And it's kind of like Ari keeps on telling me all these things, and I'm a little bit like the old Life commercial where they pass the cereal to Mikey, try it. Mikey likes it, and this is, I got to encourage all of you watching or listening. So much of this is just going out and trying this stuff. Do it in a staggered thing, and you're going to be amazed. I now, like on the podcast, I sent Ari, this podcast. It was a Time Trade. It was scheduled. In the past, my assistant we'd go back and forth a few times. Ari, you were the first one, I think, that forced me every conversation. I got to use your appointment. It's going to become commonplace as we all use this, but it's so much more efficient. I get to choose the time that works for me, and Ari got to choose the time that works for him instead of going back and forth. And so there's a lot of this. Ari, what I want to do is go to the next segment. The app of the day, but I'm going to do a little different than normal because it doesn't work for you. I'm going to go to the web and go to Ari's blog, which is lessdoing.com/blog. But he has at the bottom a resource section. And I'm going to just go through and just show you all of these have links, just a tremendous amount of resources. And we, in the 10 minutes we both have, I don't think we can go over those, Ari. What do you think?
No, that's what that's one of my things is I have like 30 different apps and services that I love to use. And and I just should point out, by the way, that you don't need technology to be more efficient. And less doing is an actual methodology and philosophy. Technology will only magnify the problems that you already have. So you need to get more efficient before you start adding on more tech.
Yeah, And this is technology is a great facilitator, but it is not the solution. That's one of the reasons why I love that optimize first. You got to get clear on the process. Then you can use the tools, as Ari's saying, the automation. Let's go to the next segment. And Ari, this is the book of the day. And I told you I wasn't going to let you off the hook. Your book was amazing to me. I'm going to put it up on Amazon. Tell us what the readers are going to get when they go ahead and acquire this from Amazon. Less doing, more living. Make everything in life easier.
Well, you just said it. They're going to make everything in life easier. They're going to get the 9 fundamentals of my system, everything from the 80-20 rule, which is all about self-tracking, to creating the external brain, stop running errands, choose your own work week, batching, organization, customization, finances, and wellness.
That's a lot. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you the entrepreneurial insight of the day, the one insight. Ari, you've got so much going on. You're sharing and making such value. What would be the one thing that you'd want to share with your fellow entrepreneurs?
Well, my personal definition of success is that if I'm better today in any way than I was yesterday, then I am successful. And I really do believe that. And that could be as a better father, as a better entrepreneur, as a better writer, better at speaking a foreign language, better at keeping my cool in situations that might make me stressful. I'm trying to always strive to be better in some way and always optimizing myself in some way or another. And I think that that's a journey that every one of us can be on and should be on.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, we're all working on perfection. None of us are going to ever obtain it, but we're working toward it. Okay, let's go to resources, Ari. And we've talked about your blog, the resource section with all the information at lessdoing.com. But I also you've got some services. And I'm a big believer in, to me, accelerating entrepreneurial success is a big virtual mastermind. I have a mastermind of top financial professionals from around the world. You've created a mastermind for people who really want to get value from this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in the name of Less Doing, I had to stop doing individual coaching basically because it was becoming too inefficient. I was putting so much effort and energy into the clients I was working with that I was really limiting myself and honestly not delivering to them the full value that I could be now that I have this mastermind group, which I launched about 2 months ago, I think, or maybe 6 weeks ago. And it's been amazing. So basically we do these weekly calls and I have a private Facebook group in between for lots of questions, lots of discussions. We talk about health, email, products, and services that people might use and want to recommend. And then there's that networking effect that people within the group have been helping each other. I have a lawyer and someone from finance and somebody else who's an inventor. And just the discussions that go back and forth, I'm learning so much every time and then I'm pouring that right back in to the group. So it's been really amazing. And basically every quarter, we're going to have these 2-day live workshop events out here in the Hamptons where I live, which is always a nice destination for people, I think. And we're going to really dig deep on the processes that people are going through and just supercharge them as humans. Basically, I find myself being more and more of a human performance consultant.
No, and that's great, and we can all use that. I started with corporate athletes as entrepreneurs. We spend so little time getting prepared for the game. A traditional athlete, it's 90% training and 10% performing. We're performing at 100% and very little, and the tools you have are just fantastic. Ari, where can we find out more information about this?
Yeah, so the best place to find everything is lessdoing.com. If you go to lessdoingbook.com, that'll save you one step for getting the book. And if you go to lessdoingpodcast.com, that'll get you right to the podcast. So that's and then, of course, lessdoingmastermind.com would be for the masterminds. I really tried to make that as simple as possible. But I'm taking more people into the group, basically focusing on producing the best content that I possibly can every day.
No, that's one of the ways. I mean, bringing the group together, sharing ideas, and just, it's amazing, sharing not only the idea itself, but how you execute. Let me go into the last section. And these are the key takeaways I'm walking away from this podcast. And I want all the entrepreneurs, for yourself, for your families, for your stakeholders, your clients. I mean, these are great things to share. Number one, most of us are doing it pretty inefficiently. As entrepreneurs, we're all about control. We want to stop that. The ability to take those things off the table and stay on our side of the line where we can add the most value, our unique abilities, is huge. So that's number one. Number two is that we're going to go ahead and we're going to follow Ari's 3-step process. We're going to start with optimizing. So we're going to have everything we have. We want to, as entrepreneurs, there's simple when we first start businesses, and it's simple because we're ignorant. We don't know what's going on. Then we go to complexity. And this is, as Ari was talking about, the 27 steps for writing a check. I want you to go to the right side of simple. And that's thinking through the process, doing it once, and then automating it, outsourcing, using all the technology. Go to Ari's resources. They're amazing. And the third part is going to how important health is, how it affects our performance, and think of yourself as a corporate athlete. Use the tools. Ari's done an amazing job there. Ari, I want to thank you for spending the time sharing your insights, your hard-learned insights. They're just so valuable.
Thank you, John. It's always fun talking to you.
Well, and let's go out. Your clients, your customers, and all those future clients and customers are counting on you to be efficient and full of energy. Let's go out and make a difference. Wish you the best of success.
Keep optimizing everything.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. AESNation.com.